The gavel struck the obsidian table. 387 lights turned green, 14 stayed red. Amara Soren watched the red lights from her seat in the fourth tier. She did not move. Her hands were wrapped around a dented steel thermos, the metal warm only from her palms. The tea inside had gone cold hours ago. That was the point. On the central floor, High Justikar Dravik Kor stood with his scaled hands folded behind his back. His black ceremonial plate caught the chamber's pale glow, 47 campaign marks engraved down his left shoulder. His amber eyes swept the room like a surveyor counting land. He had never been wrong. He did not intend to start. The vote was for the caretaker charter. 50,000 years of human stewardship over the Silent Zone, 43 star systems, 1,200 planets, had just been declared null by a margin of 373 votes. The Zarathi Empire needed room. The humans were in the way. Amara lifted the thermos and took a sip. The liquid was bitter and flat. She swallowed anyway. Dravik's voice rolled across the chamber, amplified by the spire's ancient acoustics. The caretaker zone is not a territory. It is a deception. A species that cannot even translate its own founding document has no right to govern a single system, let alone 43. He paused, letting the silence tighten. Earth has 72 hours to vacate. After that, the Zarathi fleet will enter and establish order. A low murmur rippled through the tiers. Amara counted the seconds. She had been in this room for 34 years. She had never raised her voice. She set the thermos down and stood. The charter is not ours to revoke, her voice carried. It was not loud. It did not need to be. Every head turned toward the fourth tier. Dravik's vertical pupils narrowed. Amara walked to the railing. She rested her hands on the polished obsidian. The caretaker charter was not written by humans. It was written for us, by someone else. 50,000 years ago. The murmur became a low growl. Dravik's fingers interlaced behind his back. A tell Amara had learned to read in the first year of her service. He was not amused. You speak of myths, he said. Elder Vithara's superstitions. From the highest row, a serpentine figure shifted. Elder Vithara had not moved in 3 hours. Her iridescent green scales caught the light as she leaned forward, her ancient eyes clouded with age, milky at the edges, fixed on Amara. The language, Vithara said. Her voice was thin like wind through old parchment. You have the original text. Amara nodded. In the archive of stillness, under the Martian crust, sealed for 1,200 years. Dravik's jaw tightened. A dead language, no living species can read it. No living species in this room, Amara said. She pulled a data slate from her coat pocket and placed it on the railing. The document glowed, a spiral of symbols, angular and fluid, unlike any known writing system. But Elder Vithara has seen it before. Vithara's scales shimmered. She did not blink. When I was 900 years old, she said, a Thorani expedition found a vault on a dead moon. The walls were covered in this script. We called it the language of the ones who left, she paused. We never learned to read it. But we knew what it meant. Dravik's laugh was short and hard. You are 1,800 years old, Elder. Your mind is clouded. Amara turned the slate so the symbols faced the chamber. There are 14 members of this council who voted against annexation. Every one of them has read the full translation we do have. Not the whole charter. We have only fragments, but enough to know we are not the owners of the Silent Zone. She let the words settle. We are the gardeners. The chamber went quiet. Amara could hear the hum of the spire's old machinery, the filters cycling air, the distant vibration of the station world's core. She watched Dravik's face. His scars, 3 parallel lines across his left cheek, stood pale against the black scales. Gardeners, he repeated, flatly. You tend to empty space. We tend to what was left behind, Amara said. We do not know what sleeps there. We only know that we were told to keep it closed. She set the thermos on the railing beside the slate. The metal was warm now from the chamber's heat. She had been holding it for so long that her fingers had imprinted the dents. Dravik stepped closer. His 7-foot frame cast a shadow across her seat. Show me the full charter. I cannot, Amara said. I cannot read it either. The only complete copy is in the archive. And the archive will not open until the council votes to revoke the stewardship, which it just did. Dravik's eyes flickered. Then you have nothing. I have the fragment we did translate. She tapped the slate. It says the children are not made to be conquerors. They are made to be gardeners, to tend what is sleeping. Do not wake the sleepers. The chamber erupted. Shouts from a dozen species, overlapping, questioning, demanding. Amara stood still. She watched Dravik. His hands had uncoupled. They hung at his sides. He turned to the council speaker. "This is a delay tactic. Earth is buying time." Amara shook her head. "We have had 50,000 years to prepare a delay tactic. If we wanted to delay, we would have done it when we first discovered the charter. We did not. We spent 1,200 years trying to understand what we were guarding. We still do not fully know, but we know it is not ours to give away." She picked up the thermos and screwed the cap back on. The metal clicked. "I'm not asking you to believe me," she said. "I am asking you to wait. Do not send the fleet. Give us time to translate the rest." Dravik's eyes narrowed. "Time is a luxury you burned when you failed to produce a single readable word for 12 centuries. The Thorani knew," Vithara said, rising from her seat. Her serpentine body uncoiled, and she glided down the steps, her scales whispering against the stone. "I did not speak because I was not asked. I was 900 years old when we found that vault. I am 1800 now. I have watched empires rise and fall. I have never forgotten the symbol." She reached the central floor and pointed a clawed finger at the slate. "That spiral, it is not a language. It is a signature. The ones who left signed their work. Every world they touched bears that spiral. I have seen it in the dust of dead moons, in the bedrock of hollow planets, and I have seen it in human caves." The chamber fell silent again. Amara looked at Vithara. The elder's eyes were wet. 50,000 years ago," Vithara continued, "your species drew that spiral on the walls of your oldest shelters. You did not know what it meant. You copied it because something told you to, something that visited you and then left." Dravik's voice was low. "You are claiming a ghost gave humanity a star chart. I am claiming nothing," Vithara said. "I am remembering." Amara stepped forward. "High Justicar, you have 72 hours. Use them. Send a scout ship to the boundary. Let them look. Let them see that the silent zone is not empty. There are no weapons, no defenses, but there is a pattern. Energy readings from every planet, a rhythm, as if something is breathing." Dravik stared at her. His pupils were pinpricks. 72 hours, he said. "Finally. I will send one scout. If they find nothing, the fleet moves at hour 73. He turned and walked away, his boots echoing off the obsidian floor. The other council members slowly dispersed, leaving the chamber to the hum of the machinery. Amara remained at the railing. She unscrewed the thermos and poured the cold tea into a cup. She did not drink it. She held it, letting the liquid settle. Vithara approached. "You have kept this secret longer than most species have existed." "I kept it because I did not know what else to do," Amara said. "I still do not." Vithara's aged hand touched Amara's shoulder. "That is what a gardener does. They tend what they do not fully understand. They wait." Amara looked at the slate. The spiral symbols glowed faintly. Behind her, 14 red lights still burned on the voting display. The 14 who had read the document. One of them was her. She turned to the Thorani elder. "What do you remember about the ones who left? Anything that might help us understand what we are guarding?" Vithara's eyes drifted past the chamber walls, past the spire, past the station world. "I remember that they were patient," she said. "They took their time. They did not conquer. They planted. And then they left instructions. Very simple ones. They said, 'Do not wake the sleepers.'" Amara's thermos slipped in her grip. She caught it. "Sleepers?" she repeated. "Plural," Vithara said. The word hung between them. A chime sounded from the slate, a notification from Meridian Station. Amara looked down. A message from Dr. Senavas. "We found the same spiral in the Mariana Trench sediments, dated to 50,000 years ago, also in the ice cores of Antarctica, same deposit layer. Something was here, something that left its mark everywhere." Amara read it twice. Then she tucked the slate into her coat and walked toward the exit. Vithara did not follow. The chamber's lights dimmed as the afternoon cycle began. Outside the spire's great windows, the station world turned beneath a curtain of stars. Somewhere in the dark, 43 star systems sat untouched, and in their core, a rhythm pulsed, steady, patient waiting. Amara stopped at the door. She turned back once. The voting display was still lit, 14 red, 387 green. She looked at the reds, 14 people who had read the document, 14 who had voted against the Empire, 14 who knew something they were not saying. She counted them all human. Of course! She stepped into the corridor. The door sealed behind her. The thermos was cold again. She did not mind. She walked. The corridor stretched ahead, pale obsidian and bronze, the spire's old bones humming beneath her feet. Her thermos swung from her hand, metal clicking against her thigh. She did not look back. 3 turns, and a lift ride later, she reached the diplomatic transit hub, a small alcove with a single transport pod, its hatch already open. She stepped inside. The pod sealed around her and dropped. Meridian Station rose to meet her through the viewport, a spinning ring of silver and light, Earth's diplomatic heart, tethered to the station world by a slender beam of energy. She watched it grow larger, counting the seconds. 67 hours left, the pod docked. She stepped out into the station's main concourse, bright, clean, filled with the murmur of a dozen species moving between embassies. She ignored them. She walked to a side corridor, down 2 levels, past a hydroponic garden, and stopped at a door marked Archive Annex, restricted. She pressed her palm to the lock. It clicked open. Inside, Dr. Senavas sat at a cluttered desk, surrounded by data slates and printouts. Her hair was a mess, her eyes red-rimmed, her coffee mug long empty. She looked up as Amara entered. "The Mariana Trench sample is confirmed," Voss said without greeting. "The spiral is embedded in the sediment at exactly 50,000 years deep. No known natural process could produce that pattern." Amara set her thermos on the desk. "And the ice cores, same layer, same symbol. We also found it in a core sample from the Greenland shelf and in a deep-sea vent deposit near the Azores." Voss pushed a slate across the desk. "It's everywhere, Amara. Everywhere on Earth that preserves a 50,000-year layer, that spiral is there. It's like someone seeded the planet with their signature." Amara picked up the slate. The spiral stared back at her. Same curves, same angles, same sense of being written by a hand that knew exactly what it was doing. "Vithara recognized it," Amara said. "She called it the signature of the ones who left." Voss leaned back in her chair. "The Thorani Elder. She's how old? 1800? She says she saw the script on a dead moon when she was 900. That's 2 visits. 2 different worlds, separated by 900 years, both carrying the same symbols." Voss rubbed her eyes. "Whoever left this, they wanted to be found. They didn't hide. They left markers everywhere." Amara sat down. She unscrewed the thermos and poured the cold tea into a cup. She still did not drink it. "What else have you found?" she asked. Voss pulled up a holographic display, a map of the Silent Zone, 43 systems, each marked with a small spiral. "We've cross-referenced the charter fragments with the cave paintings. The same words appear in both, the same warning." She highlighted a section of text. "We have a new translation. It's rough, but the meaning is clear." She read aloud, "The sleepers are not dead. They are waiting. Do not disturb their rest, for they dream of a garden they have not yet seen." Amara felt the air leave her lungs. "Waiting," she repeated. "Waiting," Voss confirmed. "Not sleeping in the sense of unconscious, more like dormant, suspended. But alive." Amara stared at the map. 1,200 planets, 43 systems, all marked. "If they're alive," she said, "then what happens if we disturb them?" Voss's eyes met hers. "The charter doesn't say. It only says not to." A chime sounded from Amara's slate. She looked down. A message from the council chamber. "Scout ship launched. ETA to boundary. 41 hours. She closed the message. "I need to speak with the 14, she said. "The ones who voted against annexation. They've read the same fragments we have. They must know something more." Voss nodded. "I'll route you a private channel." "But Amara," she hesitated. "The 14 aren't just diplomats. They're all human, every one of them. Did you notice that?" Amara had noticed. She picked up her thermos and stood. "I noticed." The private channel opened an hour later. Amara sat in a small conference room on Meridian Station, the 14 faces on a curved display around her. She recognized each of them, ambassadors from various Earth colonies, all with decades of service, all with the same quiet, patient look she saw in her own mirror. She did not ask if they had read the charter. She knew they had. She asked a different question. "Who told you to vote no?" A long silence. Then the oldest face, a man named Elias Kor, no relation to Dravik, spoke. "No one told us, Amara. We found the full translation ourselves, each of us, independently, over the last 20 years. He leaned forward. "The charter has a secondary layer." A cipher embedded in the symbols. We cracked it using the cave paintings as a key. The full text is more specific than the fragments. Amara waited. Elias continued, it names the sleepers. Not just something, it names them. The language is untranslatable in a single word, but the closest we have is the first gardeners. The ones who planted before the ones who planted us. Her thermos felt heavy in her hands. Are you saying, she said slowly, that the ones who left, the ones who wrote the charter, were not the first? Elias shook his head. They were the second. The first gardeners planted something here. A seed, a system. We don't know what. The second gardeners arrived and found it. They built a fence around it. They left us to tend the fence, and they told us, in every language they could carve, not to wake what was sleeping inside. Amara set the thermos on the table. It landed with a soft thud. Who were the second gardeners? Elias's face was unreadable. We don't know. They did not leave their name, only their instructions, and their signature, the spiral. Another face spoke, a younger woman named Tessa. The cipher also includes a count. It says the sleepers have been dreaming for 500 million years, and they are nearing a cycle's end. 500 million years. Amara's mind went to the Earth's age, the extinction events, the long ages of silence. 500 million years was older than most life on Earth. How long until the cycle ends? The 14 exchanged glances. Tessa answered. The cipher says when the first gardener returns. We don't know what that means. The screen flickered. Another message from the council, scout ship at hour 38. Boundary approaching. No deviation. Amara checked the time. 38 hours left. She stood. I need to see the archive. The original charter, the full text. Elias nodded. The archive is sealed. It only opens to the steward. That's you. Amara, you were appointed 12 years ago. You never used the authority. She had forgotten. The dusty title, the quiet assignment, steward of the caretaker charter. She had thought it ceremonial. Now she knew it was not. The archive of stillness lay buried 2 kilometers beneath the Martian crust. Amara traveled by shuttle alone, leaving Meridian Station behind. The descent took 4 hours. She spent them reviewing Voss's data, reading the cipher notes, and counting the hours that ticked away. 36, 35, 34. The shuttle landed in a cavern of pale rock, illuminated by ancient lights that had not dimmed in 1,200 years. A single door stood before her, obsidian like the spire, but older, much older. She pressed her palm to the surface. A panel glowed with the spiral symbol. It recognized her. The door opened. Inside, the archive was a single room, circular, walls covered in carved symbols. In the center, a pedestal held a single sheet of metal, silver gray, untouched by time, the charter. Amara approached slowly. The symbols were identical to the ones she had seen in Vethara's memory, in the cave paintings, in the sediment layers. But here, they were complete. She touched the metal. It was cold, and then she understood, not the words, the shape of the message, the way the symbols curved around each other, forming a pattern that was not just a warning but a map, a 3-dimensional map of the Silent Zone, but with one difference. The spiral was not on the planets. The spiral was at the center of the zone, a point of origin. She traced the lines with her finger. They led to a single star, a yellow dwarf, unremarkable, labeled with a symbol she recognized. It was the same symbol carved in Earth's oldest caves, the same spiral. She knew that star. It was not in the Silent Zone. It was Sol, Earth's sun. She pulled back, her hand trembling. The charter was not about the Silent Zone. It was about Earth. Earth was the garden. Earth was the sleeping thing. The 43 systems were the fence. A chime from her slate. Scout ship at boundary. Transmission incoming. She opened the message. It was a short burst of data from the Scouts captain. Crossed boundary at hour 29. Empty space. No ships. No defenses. But we are reading energy signatures from the planets. Accelerating. The star at the center of the zone. It's warming. Something is happening. She read it again. Then she pulled up a star chart. The center of the Silent Zone, that yellow dwarf, was not a random star. It was the same spectral type as Sol. It was a twin. She closed her eyes. The second gardeners had not left Earth. They had seeded Earth, and then they had left a copy, a mirror, a backup, and somewhere in that mirror something was waking up. She turned to the charter. She read the final line, the only line she had not seen before, hidden in the inner ring of symbols. It translated as, The children are made to be gardeners, but the first garden was always earth. Tend it well, for the sleepers are not behind the fence, they are within. The slate buzzed again. Scout ship reports. Stars temperature increasing. Rate 1% per hour. At this rate, full ignition in 4 days. 4 days. The fleet would arrive in 29 hours. Amara walked out of the archive. The door sealed behind her. She did not close her eyes. She returned to Meridian Station in silence. The shuttle's autopilot hummed. She sat in the passenger compartment, her thermos cradled in her lap, and she thought about what the charter really said. Earth was the sleepers. Humanity had been guarding itself. The second gardeners had not left a warning for others. They had left a mirror, a copy of the garden, a place where the same process was happening, and now the mirror was waking. She arrived at the station. Voss met her at the docking bay. "You found something," Voss said. It was not a question. Amara handed her the slate with the final translation. Voss read it, her face paling. "Earth is the sleepers," Voss breathed. "The charter was never about protecting others from us. It was about protecting us from ourselves, from the part of us that's sleeping," Amara said. "The first gardeners planted something in us, something that's been dormant for 500 million years. The second gardeners built a fence to keep that something contained, and they left a twin garden, the silent zone, as a monitor. If the sleepers ever wake, the twin wakes first. A warning." Voss stared at the map. "And it's waking now." Amara nodded. The scout ship crossed the boundary. That triggered it. The mirror is responding to the disturbance. That means Voss started. "Someone has to close the boundary," Amara said. "Call the scout back. Withdraw all human presence from the silent zone, and pray the mirror settles back to sleep." Voss's jaw tightened. Dravik will never agree. He's 29 hours from sending his fleet. Amara looked at her thermos. The tea had been cold for so long, she unscrewed the cap and drank it. Bitter, flat, grounding. "Then I'll have to make him agree," she said. She walked toward the diplomatic transit hub. Her steps were steady, her hands did not shake. Behind her, the station's public broadcast system crackled to life. All personnel, Imperial scout ship reports anomalous energy readings from the caretaker zone. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. All ambassadors report to the Ethelgard Spire immediately. Amara paused. She looked up at the clock. 28 hours and 42 minutes. She boarded the pod. It began its ascent. The pod's ascent slammed her into her seat. She didn't feel the pressure. She felt the clock. The Spire's transit dock opened, and she stepped out into a corridor already thick with running aides and shouting officials. The emergency session had been called 10 minutes ago. Dravik was already on the floor. She pushed through the crowd. The chamber doors were open. She walked in. Dravik stood at the central platform, his black armor gleaming under the pale lights. His hands were not folded behind his back. They were flat on the obsidian table, fingers spread, pressing down as if he could force the room to stillness. His amber eyes found her immediately. "Ambassador Soren," he said, his voice cutting through the noise. "You will explain the energy readings." She walked to her seat in the 4th tier. She did not sit. "The readings are from the Silent Zone's central star. It is warming." The scout ship crossing the boundary triggered a reaction. "A reaction to what?" Dravik demanded. She took a breath, to the fence being touched. "The Silent Zone is not empty territory. It is a mirror, a copy of Earth. The charter was not about protecting others from us. It was about protecting us from ourselves." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Dravik's eyes narrowed. "You are claiming the humans were hiding something from themselves." "We were hiding what was planted in us," Amara said. She pulled out her slate and projected the charter's full translation. The symbols glowed across the chamber walls. "The first gardeners, they seeded Earth. They planted something in our biology, something that has slept for 500 million years. The second gardeners arrived, recognized what was here, and built a fence around us. They left instructions, 'Do not wake the sleepers.'" She paused, letting the weight settle. "We thought the sleepers were in the silent zone. They were not. The sleepers are us. The silent zone is the alarm. If the fence is breached, the mirror wakes. And if the mirror wakes fully, Earth will not survive." Dravik's laugh was hollow, a convenient story. "Your fleet is dismantled, your defenses are absent, and now you claim your own planet is a weapon you cannot control. It is not a weapon, it is a garden." Amara said, and you're about to trample it. The chamber erupted. Voices clashed across the tiers. Dravik slammed his fist on the table. Silence. The room went quiet. He turned to Amara. You have 1 hour. Provide proof that your species is not fabricating this to stall. If you cannot, the fleet will advance at the hour's end. He stepped down from the platform and walked out. Amara stood still. The chamber slowly emptied. She did not move. Bithara appeared at her side. The elder scales were dull, her ancient eyes fixed on the projection. The first gardeners, Bithara said, her voice barely above a whisper. My people's oldest songs speak of them, not as beings, as patterns, as a rhythm that moved through empty worlds and left life in its wake. Amara turned. You never mentioned this before because I did not understand what I was remembering, Bithara said. The songs say the first gardeners planted seeds in many worlds, but only one seed grew true, Earth. They called it the first garden. Then the second gardeners came, Amara said. They built the fence, Bithara nodded. They were not conquerors. They were caretakers. They saw what the first gardeners had done, and they knew it must not be disturbed. So they placed a copy of the garden, the silent zone, as a boundary, a warning, and they left their instructions in human soil. Amara looked at the charter. The second gardeners, what happened to them? They left, Bithara said. They went somewhere else. Perhaps to plant another garden? Perhaps to watch this one from afar? I do not know. A chime from Amara's slate. She looked down. A message from Voss flagged urgent. Earth is responding. Magnetic field shifting. Deep sea vents opening. Animal migrations reversing direction. Something is changing. Fast. The mirror is waking and Earth feels it. Amara read it twice. She typed back. How long? Voss replied. Hours. Maybe less. We are seeing patterns we have never recorded. This is not natural. This is a response. She closed the slate. Her thermos felt cold in her hand. She found Dravik in his private quarters, a small, austere room bare of decoration except for the campaign marks etched into his armor stand. He stood at a viewport, his back to her. You have proof? He asked without turning. I have the charter's full translation, she said, and I have real-time data from Earth. The mirror is waking. If you send your fleet now, you will trigger a cascade we cannot stop. He turned. His face was hard, his scars pale against the black scales. You are asking me to believe that your species is a landmine buried by ancient ghosts. I'm asking you to wait, to pull the scout back, to let the mirror settle. Waiting means the Empire stays within its borders, he said. The Zarathi have not expanded in 47 years. We need room. We need resources. Your species occupies 43 systems it cannot even govern. We are not governing, Amara said. We are guarding. There is a difference. He stepped closer. His shadow fell over her. Show me the data. Convince me. She handed him her slate. He scanned it, his amber eyes moving rapidly. She watched his face. For a moment she saw something flicker, doubt. Then he handed it back. This proves nothing. Magnetic shifts could be natural. Animal migrations could be unrelated. You are grasping. I am not grasping, she said. I am telling you the truth. The charter says, the sleepers are not behind the fence. They are within. Earth is the garden. The silent zone is the mirror. If we disturb the mirror, we disturb the garden, and I do not think the garden will stay asleep. Dravik stared at her. His hands were behind his back again. Leave, he said. I will consider your data. She did not move. The fleet is still on course. He did not answer. She turned and walked out. In the corridor, she met Elias Kor, one of the 14. His face was tight. The fleet is at 4 hours out, he said. Dravik accelerated the timeline. He did not tell the council. Amara's stomach dropped. We have to stop them. Impossible. The council has already voted to approve annexation. The only way is to prove the charter's authority over the council's own charter. And how do we do that? Elias lowered his voice. The 14 found something else in the cipher, a secondary mechanism. The second gardeners left a failsafe. A human can enter the silent zone center and perform an activation, a closing of the fence. But it requires a specific word, the name of the first gardener. What is the name? We don't know. It is not written anywhere in the charter. The cipher says the name is held in the oldest human language, the one that predates writing, the language of gesture and sound. The first words spoken by the first gardeners to the first humans. Amara stared at him. That's impossible. That language is lost. Unless it is not lost, Elias said. Unless the first gardeners embedded it in something that never changes. He looked at her thermos. She looked down at it. The dented steel, the hairline cracked near the rim. She had carried it for 18 years. Her mother had carried it before her. Her grandmother before that. A family heirloom passed down through generations. She had never thought to ask why it was kept. She unscrewed the cap. The inside was lined with a thin layer of old metal. And on the inside of the lid, worn almost smooth, a pattern of scratches. She had always thought they were manufacturing marks. Now she looked closer. They were not marks, they were symbols. The same spiral, but with a variation, a center dot, a line curving outward. A shape that looked like a mouth speaking. "The name," she whispered. "It's on the lid." Elias leaned in. "Can you read it? It's not a written language. It's a representation of sound, a mouth shape, a vibration." She touched the scratches with her thumb. I think it's a word that must be spoken. Not written. Spoken?" She looked up. "If I speak it at the center of the silent zone, will it close the fence?" Elias nodded slowly. "That is what the cipher says, but you have to be there, in person." At the mirror's heart, she looked at the clock on the wall. 4 hours before the fleet arrived. "Get me to the scout ship," she said. "I'm going." The scout ship was small, a 2-person vessel designed for observation, not speed. Amara boarded it at the Spire's military dock, her thermos tucked under her arm. The pilot, a young human named Reyes, looked at her with wide eyes. "Ambassador, we don't have clearance." "We are not asking," she said. "We are going to the center of the silent zone. I have to speak something there. If I don't, the fleet will trigger a reaction we cannot stop." Reyes hesitated. Then he nodded. "Strap in." The ship launched. The journey took 2 hours. Amara spent them studying the lid scratches, tracing them with her finger, trying to shape the sound in her mouth. It was not a word she recognized. It was a vibration, a hum that resonated in her chest. She could feel it in her bones. She closed her eyes and whispered it. The ship hummed around her. She felt the vibration echo back. The boundary of the silent zone appeared on the viewport, a thin line of light, shimmering like heat off metal. Reyes slowed the ship. "I'm reading energy signatures. They're getting stronger." "The star at the center, it's spiking." "Take us in," Amara said. They crossed the boundary. Immediately, the ship's alarms blared. The star ahead was pulsing, its light flickering. The planets around it glowed with a faint, rhythmic light, like a heartbeat. Reyes' voice was tight. "The readings are off the scale. The star's temperature has increased 10% in the last hour. At this rate, it will reach full ignition in." "Just get me to the center," Amara said. They flew deeper. The planets below them were covered in the spiral symbol, carved into mountains, etched into plains, carved into the very rock. Everywhere she looked, she saw the mark of the second gardeners. She felt a vibration in the thermos. The lid was warming. "We're at the center," Reyes said. "The star is directly ahead. 50,000 kilometers." Amara stood. "Open the airlock." "Ambassador, I'll be in a suit. I just need to be outside, facing the star." "I need to speak the word." Reyes opened the airlock. She stepped into the small chamber, sealed her helmet, and waited as the outer door slid open. The star's light was blinding. She felt the heat through her suit. The planets pulsed around her, a rhythm that matched the vibration in her chest. She pulled out the thermos. She unscrewed the lid. The scratches glowed. She spoke the word. It was not a sound she made with her voice. It was a vibration that came from her chest, her throat, her bones, a hum that resonated with the star, with the planets, with the rhythm of the entire zone. The star's light flickered, the planets' pulses synchronized, and for a moment everything went silent. Then the star dimmed, the planet's glow faded. The energy signatures dropped. Amara lowered the thermos. She had done it. The fence was closing, but then a new vibration. Not from the zone, from the thermos, from the lid. She looked down. A new line of scratches had appeared. Words that had not been there before, they read. "The mirror sleeps again, but the garden is still waking. The name you spoke was the closing. The opening requires the other name, the one you do not know, and it is already spoken." Her suit's calm crackled. Reyes's voice, frantic. "Ambassador, I'm picking up a transmission from Earth. It says," he paused, "it says the magnetic field has reversed, completely. Something on Earth has opened, something that was never closed." Amara stared at the new scratches. Her blood went cold. The mirror had closed. But the garden, Earth, was still waking, and the opening required a name she did not have. She looked back at the star. It was dim, but not dark. It was waiting. A message flashed on her suit display from Meridian Station. Elias Core says the 14 found a second layer. The sleepers are not just in us, they are in our history. The name is held by the one who first heard it, the first human who was spoken to. That human's bloodline is still alive, and it is marked by the spiral. Your bloodline? Amara. She felt her heart stop. She was the gardener. She was the keeper. And she had just closed the wrong gate. The fleet was still 2 hours out. Earth was still waking, and the name she needed was somewhere in her own DNA. She touched the thermos. Cold. Always cold, she said quietly to the empty space. I don't even know my own name. The star flickered once, then it settled into silence. She floated in the void, the thermos in her hands, the weight of 50,000 years pressing down on her shoulders. The fence was closed. But the garden was not safe, and she had no idea what to do next. She floated in the void, the thermos in her hands, the weight of 50,000 years pressing down on her shoulders. The fence was closed, but the garden was not safe, and she had no idea what to do next. She pulled herself back to the airlock. Reyes helped her inside. She sealed her helmet and sat down, her hands shaking around the thermos. Reyes, I need a full genomic scan. Now, he stared. Your vitals, not for me. The first gardeners left a name in our blood. The other name. The one we need. He turned to the console, ran a deep sweep scanner. Data poured across the screen. She watched, her heart pounding. Found something, he said. A sequence ancient, non-human, repeating in a spiral pattern. I can translate it into sound. A low hum filled the cabin. It vibrated through her bones. She recognized it, the same resonance she had felt when she spoke the closing word. That's the opening name, she said. The message said, it's already spoken. That means someone or something already used it. The scout crossing the boundary must have triggered it. The land itself spoke the name. Then we're too late, Reyes said. No, she stood. We're right on time. The closing and opening names are two halves of a whole. I spoke the closing alone. I need to speak them together in harmony to balance the garden. She looked at the lid. The scratches had faded, but she remembered the vibration. Take me back to the center. I need to speak both names to the star. The second time she floated outside the ship, the star was dimmer, but she felt its pulse matching her own. She held the thermos, its lid warm against her palm. She took a breath. She spoke the closing word, the vibration that had silenced the mirror. Then she added the opening tone, humming it from her chest. Together they merged into a single chord that resonated across the void. The star flickered. The planet's rhythms shifted, synchronizing with her heartbeat. She felt the garden, not just the mirror but Earth itself, respond. The thermos grew hot, then settled into a steady warmth. She spoke the combined vibration again, louder, clearer. The crack on the thermos's rim vanished. The metal smoothed. The lid scratches faded entirely, replaced by a single new symbol, a spiral with a dot at its center and a line curving outward like a root. A voice, ancient and calm, filled her mind. The seed is planted. The garden is awake, and now the gardener knows. She opened her eyes. The stars shone steady. The planets glowed softly. The fence was no longer a wall. It was a living membrane, breathing with her. She returned to the ship. She sent a transmission to the council, to Dravik, to everyone. The garden is awake, not a threat, a beginning. The sleepers are not weapons. They are a new way of growing. Send the fleet, and you will see only a garden. Step into it, and you will become part of it. Minutes later, Dravik's face appeared on the screen. His amber eyes were hard, but she saw a crack in his certainty. The readings from Earth show stabilization. The magnetic field is holding. The seismic activity is calming. He paused. Explain what you have done. I completed the cycle. The second gardeners left 2 keys, one to close, one to open. The opening was triggered when your scout crossed the boundary. I spoke both keys together and balanced the garden. The sleepers are waking, but they are waking as part of us. They are not a danger. They are a gift. Dravik stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned away from the screen. She heard him issue a command. Recall the fleet. Halt all advance toward the silent zone. She sat back. Reyes exhaled. She landed on Meridian Station hours later. Voss met her at the dock. Her hair wild, her eyes red-rimmed. The readings Earth is healing. The atmosphere is purifying. The deep sea vents have stopped emitting. It's like the planet is waking up in a good way. It was never sick, Amara said. It was just waiting. She walked through the station, past the crowds, toward the hydroponic grove, a quiet corner where earth plants grew in artificial light. She sat on a bench and set the thermos beside her. Vithara appeared, her scales catching the soft glow. She sat down slowly. You spoke the name, Vithara said. I found it in myself. The first gardeners left it in our blood. Vithara nodded. They trusted the gardeners. Amara looked at the thermos. The crack was gone. The metal was smooth and warm. She unscrewed the cap and took a sip. The tea was still cold, but it tasted different. Clean, clear, like water from a spring. She set it down. A green leaf drifted from an overhead branch and landed on the lid. She did not brush it off. What happens now? She asked. Vithara smiled, a rare ancient expression. Now you tend. The garden is awake. You will watch it grow. And you will wait for the next cycle. Will there be another cycle? There's always a garden, Vithara said, and there will always be gardeners. Amara stood. She looked out at the stars through the grove's transparent ceiling. The thermos hung from her hand, warm against her hip. She turned and walked back into the grove. The plants rustled behind her. The garden breathed.